Hi folks, here we are for episode 2, back on Tobacco Road. We're in the field again today. It has been 7 weeks since these plants were transplanted from the nursery or the greenhouse to the field. So I thought I'd give you a little update to see how these little guys are growing. And some of them looking really good. We got a couple areas that we'll look at, and I'll show you the difference in the soil types. So let's take a look. As you can see, the plants are growing fairly well. This is what Brightleaf tobacco looks like when it's just a few weeks old. Within the last week or so, we've had quite a bit of rain. We probably had 4 to 5, close to 6 inches of rain within the last week. And so these plants have took a little growth spurt, and you can see that. So here's an example. Really healthy plant, looking really good. You can see that it's got dirt on it that has been splattered up due to the rain. Looks like a little insect bite here. There's a little hole in the leaf, which is normal. The plant is getting its normal texture. It has some gum on the leaves. We can feel that. But all in all, a pretty good plant. You can see here that the leaves are filling out. Notice how large the leaves are on these plants. Now these plants, as we'll see in future episodes, they get up to 3 to 4 feet tall. I have seen Brightleaf tobacco grow over 6 feet, but that's not very common. It has to be really, really good conditions for that to happen. And it's not necessarily a good thing for it to grow to that magnitude. But anyway, there's a really good plant. Got some really good plants here in this area, and you can see. One thing to notice here about the plant is notice the leaves. The leaves are big and full, and the actual breadth of the leaf goes all the way to the stalk. If you pay attention to that, you can see that the width of the leaf all the way to the stalk there, and that'll be a little more prevalent to see as this plant gets older, gets a little more age on it. Right now they're still young, still very susceptible to insects and worms and drought and overwatering from excessive amounts of rain, hailstorms, you name it. Very susceptible plant for that. But at the same time, they seem to be very resilient to many things. So in here you can see that the plant is still growing, and as we'll see in a future episode, they'll eventually become a blossom that will be on this plant, and it signifies that it's getting very close to maturity. But we have a ways to go, hopefully, before that occurs. We need to see these plants up at least 3 feet tall or more. 4 foot tall would be great. So as we walk on down, you'll see we've got some plants not looking so good. Here's one. You can see this one. It's still very small. Notice compared to the one beside it. Could be several reasons for that. It could be an issue with the plant itself. It could be the soil or something right around it. It also looks like something's going on here with the soil. I don't know. Obviously there's some drainage here from rainwater or something. But I'm not suspecting that being the issue here. So not really sure what's happened with this plant. And if you'll look, there's a couple of other places where we have some plants. Let's move on over here. You can see this one. This one is not dead, but it's not growing. It's still in a very, very small state. And again, I'm not smart enough to tell you why that is. There's some weeds around it. So far, this tobacco has been cultivated probably 3 times. It's been sprayed just about as many times as that. So it gets sprayed for insects and pests. And this particular tobacco does not seem to be the Roundup Ready variety, but it could be. I could be wrong about that. But as you'll look around, you'll see some plants that are not doing so well and some of them that are doing great. But most of them are looking pretty good. They're growing. Now we're going to walk over to another part of the field and we're going to see a different issue going on there. So let's move on over there. As we walk over here, we are expecting quite a bit more rain in the next couple of days. We have a tropical depression off the coast and it's going to come into the Carolinas, and we're going to get quite a bit of rain from it. How much is really unknown. Forecasts are sometimes not very accurate on rainfall with those because they're highly unpredictable, but we'll have to wait and see. Now you would think that tobacco would just really love the rain, and it does, but as with most things, it can get too much. And these have not had too much, but you can get too much rain at one time. But tobacco is much more susceptible to drought, to wind, especially when it gets up in age, to high winds like from a hurricane. Now, if you'll notice in this area, most of these plants are not growing very well. If you look around here, this whole area, the plants are fairly small. If you look over a ways where we came from there, pretty good health on those plants. But here it's like the growth has been stinted and it's just not really healthy. It's really, these are not going to be large, full plants that's going to produce the best yield. And the reason for that is, if you'll also pay attention to the soil, at one time there was a lot of clay that was dumped here in this area. And that clay has been spread out a little bit due to the cutting of the field and the plowing that went on in preparation, and some land leveling that occurred here as well. So these plants are in a very high clay-rich soil. Now this soil in general is very sandy. It does have some nutrients in it. It does really well. You go down about 1.5 feet and we've got some clay. We're in eastern North Carolina. We do not have rock, so you're not going to go down and find probably any rock, or at least not as far as you can dig. But we do have clay. It doesn't take far to get to it. And as you can tell, that does not work really well for Brightleaf tobacco. So here you can see that the soil is a little on the orangey side. Not terrible, it's mixed in with the other dirt that's here, but it is enough that this whole area where the clay is dominant has caused the tobacco to not grow very well. It's not looking very healthy at all. And as you can see, the plants look well, but they also look young, and they're not young. These plants look like they're maybe 3 weeks old, and they're actually 7 weeks old. So we may have an issue in this particular part of the field where these plants never get up to the size that they should be at maturity. But as you'll see coming up in a later video, that they'll reach maturity. They just won't be big. So we'll have to monitor that and see how that goes. But so far, it's a really pretty day. A little overcast, got some rain coming in later today. But the field is looking good. So I just wanted to give you an update here for episode 2. and show you. The first episode, you can go back and watch that if you haven't. We looked at the plants right after they were transplanted here into the field. And we're gonna keep up with these guys and see what happens through the summer here. So stick around and enjoy the journey here of Brightleaf tobacco in eastern North Carolina.